Studio. So I'm just going to turn my canvas so you guys can see. So tonight we're doing an oil painting, similar to last week, but in oil, so that you guys can see the difference. All right, so hang on here. Let me just put my hair up. So I could not, for some reason, I could not get my phone to share with my TV, so I'm not going to have that distance to kind of look at. So, yeah, you know, technical difficulties, they always come up when we least expect them. All right, so I was playing with that, so I didn't even get my colors out. So I'm going to put a few colors on my palette, and then we will start. Welcome, guys. If you're just hopping in, say hi. Let me know where you're watching from. All right, so just getting a few colors on here to start. And then we'll add as we go. So right now I have just got alizarin crimson, which is this color, Indian yellow, which is the middle color. Hey Fiona, I'm doing good. How are you? And I have got some Prussian blue, which is the darker of the blues right here. So we're going to start with that, and I'm just going to put some color on. When I put the first initial layer, you're not going to really see the color, even less than last week on the acrylic. So normally I don't use paper towels when I'm doing oil. I use shop towels. But I am all out of shop towels, so this is what we've got. So you want to get the bulk of the oil off, but yet leave enough for your paints to slide. So this is like total opposite of acrylics. Your paint, your canvas is going to stay wet throughout your whole painting, so you don't have to worry as much. So what I'm going to do, it's going to be a similar sunset scene like last week. So I'm going to use the Indian yellow, then we're going to do some alizarin crimson, and then I'm going to do the blue. The reason I'm going to put it in that order is because if I do the yellow and the blue, we're going to get a green sky, and I don't want a green sky. So if I do the yellow and the red, we'll get an orange hue, and then the red and the blue, we'll get a purpley hue. So that's kind of my strategy going into this. So I'm going to go in with the Indian yellow first. So I'm just going to put a little bit on my brush, like a little bit. This goes a long way, guys. So we're going to get like a yellow center going. And then obviously I want to bring it down into underneath. So depending on what I do, if I need a reflection, I will have some of that same yellow. So I'm just kind of, you know, doing the two. Then I'm just going to wipe this off. And you can see where it's yellow, but you can see it, but real faint. So then I'm going to go in with the alizarin crimson. And again, I'm just putting a little bit on the end of my brush, like you don't even see it standing up. And then we're just going to kind of bring that above and below. pick up just a little bit more so we can have some showing up at the bottom. And I'm just going to wipe whatever's on there off. And then I'm going to pick up just a little bit of the Prussian blue. So we've just got that. And we're just going to do the top section and the bottom section. And I went over the red a little bit, which is fine. And we'll get some in the bottom down here. So I have no clue what I'm painting. I know it's going to be a sunset. It could also be a Northern Lights painting. If you guys wanted to see how I do the Northern Lights, I can totally do that with this background. So let me just give a minute. And if you guys want to see a Northern Lights, you can put that in the comments. All right. So now I've got to get some white. And of course, I forgot the white. Hang on. So I keep my oil paints on one side of my toolbox and the acrylics on the other. So that's kind of how I do it. All right, so we're going to put some white on our palette here. And let me see. I'm going to start with a fan brush. So I've left a spot in the middle dark where I put no color. And that's where we're going to differentiate our ground mass from our sky and whatever's on the bottom. So I'm just going to pick up just a little bit of white. And we're just going to put it on both sides of our brush. So it's still very minimal. And let me see here. So once I start putting this white, you're going to see those colors pop. Let's see. So I'm going to flip it over. Just wipe off the extra. Now, I haven't painted in oil in a long, long time, so it's definitely gonna take me a little bit to get back into the groove here. All right, so I'm gonna wipe this out, and then I'm gonna take a 1-inch brush, and we're gonna start blending the sky, so that we can kind of get a blended sky. So I'm going to start in the lighter section, and then I'm just going to slowly work my way up. And then if I need to come in and add more, then we will after. Just want to kind of get something going in the sky. I am going to put some clouds, so that's why I kind of left some dark spots. All right. So right now it's kind of like, all over the place. I'm going to clean my brush here. Now my hands will be full by the time I'm done this. I mean, I've already got paint on them, because I am very messy. All right, so I'm going to go back into the Indian yellow, which is that yellowy color. And I just I just want to get a little bit brighter area here. And then I'll go into the white, and we're gonna just want a light area in here. Clean my brush. And I'm going to pick up some more of the red, the alizarin crimson, and so it just depends on how dark you put your initial first color. And then I'm going to pick up some white. And I'm just kind of slapping this on. No rhyme or reason. Just trying to get the light colors kind of where I want them. And then we're going to do the same thing on the blue. And I'm going to bring some of that down. And then we'll pick up some of the white. And I'm just going to be very careful in this yellowy area because I don't want it to go green. And then I'm going to pick up my 1-inch brush again. And this time I'm going to kind of swirl. And just kind of giving us a little bit more movement in our sky area. And I'm just going to pick up some more of the red. Or the alizarin crimson, I should say. And we'll just kind of bring that up into the blue a little bit. All right, I am going to take my other 1-inch brush, if I can find it here. Now I'm going to go back into the yellow. And now I'm going to start picking up some white. And I'm just going to blend that out. So it kind of gives us that smooth so we have that really bright, like, sun area. So let me take a round brush here, and we're going to put like a sunspot. So I'm just going to pick up white, and let's see, we're going to go right about here, and I'm just going to spin my brush. Just like that. All right, so now we have that little bit of sun glowing. Wipe this off. Let me clean this brush. Welcome, guys. If you're just hopping on, say hi, hey, let me know where you're watching from. All right, so I'm just gonna pick up just a little bit of the white, and I might have a little bit of pink in there, but that's okay. So I'm just picking up a little bit of the white, and I just want to kind of like give a little bit more, like around where this kind of the sun is. And I'm going to take a clean 2-inch brush, very lightly, and this is sometimes where I struggle. If you put too much paint, then you're going to drag that paint around. So that's why this time I kind of like added a little bit as I went. All right, so I'm just going to pick up some more white, and we're going to just start getting a little bit of this reflection going on down here. We're going to try to mirror like our top. So as you can see, whatever white is in here, I can stretch that quite a bit. All right. Again, I'm going to take the 2-inch brush, and we are going to start smoothing this over. So that's like our first, like initial, you know, whatever we have going on. All right, so let me clean this brush. And I have my bucket with my screen at the bottom. So that way I can get that paint out of and the oils out of my brush. All right. Let me clean all of my brushes, because I've only got a few that I use for oil, so I kind of have to clean as I go. All right. And that way we will be ready for our next layer. So I'm probably going to go in and add a little bit more red to my sky up there. I just want that a little bit more pink up in there. And actually I'm going to go in with red, the actual cadmium red. We're going to add a little bit of red up there. Because normally I would put red over the alizarin crimson, and this time I didn't. But that's okay. Just gonna bring, and then we're gonna pick up some white, which is gonna turn that red, hopefully, into a pink. And then once I blend that out, we should have a better pink color. All right. And we're gonna actually pop a little orange in there too, because I'm not getting that brightness that I wanted up in that sky. So I'm gonna clean this brush out. And that's the beauty of the oil, is it stays wet, so you can keep, you know, adding to your colors. As long as you blend them out in between, then you know, you'll get that you'll get a nice blend. And I'm gonna put a little bit down in here, even though I didn't put the red. I'm gonna get a little bit of this kind of going. And I just gotta be careful in this blue area because I don't want it to go green. All right, so I didn't wash my brush. I'm just picking up some white, and we're just gonna getting some little bit of brush movements going on. And then we can blend this out. Just so it's kind of more of like a sunset color. I don't know, I just wasn't feeling the vibe on that first round. All right, so I just want to make sure my brush is as clean as possible, and kind of blend this out. All right, so I'm liking that much better. I am going to go in with more white on my sun though. So I'm just going to take some white on. Oh, thank you, Fiona. Actually, oil painting to me is easier in a lot of different aspects. There are a few things that make it more difficult, and I'll explain that when we get to it. But overall, oil I find is easier. So I'm just going to do that sun again. And then I'm just gonna kind of blend that out a little bit. There we go. So now that sun is really starting to stand out a little bit. But because the oils stay wet longer, and you use a lot less paint, to me, than you do an acrylic, it's a little bit easier. All All right, so I want to set that sun down just a little bit, but because that white is on there, I'm going to really lightly go over it, and then I will brush there. So that just kind of like sets it back into the sky. All right, so let's see here. Let's do a, should have some sort of a mountain in here somewhere. But I don't want to cover my sun. So I'm going to take some of my blue, some of the alizarin crimson, and some of the red, and I'm just going to make a really dark color. It's going to be like a black brown almost. So whatever dark colors that you have on your palette, you can use. And this is my big knife, so hang on. I want to switch over to my smaller knife. So there's two sizes. This is the big one. I want to use the smaller one because I want to keep the mountains kind of more distant. So I'm just going to pick up some of that dark color, and we're going to start to get some sort of mountain range going here. So then I'm just going to pull that all down. And let's see. All right, we'll start with that. I'm just going to wipe this off. I'm going to pick up a little bit of white and some of that Indian yellow and some of the orange. So we're going to kind of make like a sunset color. And it doesn't have to be blended all the way. And I'm just going to pick a little bit up. And on this side of each mountain, we're going to put that sunset color in. And I'm hoping it doesn't turn green. Pick up a little bit more. And that was a bit much. And let's make a little peak one over here. All right. Let's see. Just gonna kind of pull some of this down. and then I'll go back over it. I just want to, all right, I'm gonna wipe this off, and then I'm just gonna go back in with that same color, and we'll just give a little bit more all right, I gotta mix up some more. Okay, so now we have our light side. Now I'm going to take some of the blue and the white, and we're going to make a darker, like a darker blue, and that's going to be our shadow color. So we're just going to come in on the other side, and then we'll just start shaping those mountains. I'm just going to kind of give like some little cliff areas or whatever you want to call these. All right. And then I'm just going to bring this ground put a little bit of ground in there. All right. So I'm gonna take, I'm gonna take some of that dark color that I used to start the mountains. And I'm gonna put in a few trees. So when you're working with oils, because that's already a thick paint, I'm gonna have to thin down my black paint, or the darker paint. So I'm gonna take some of the paint thinner, and I'm just gonna put that in that dark color that I mixed, so that we can thin this down, so that my trees will kind of stand out. And I just splattered on my canvas here, so I'm gonna get them spots out of there. And we're gonna all right, let's see if I can do it with this brush. And I don't want them all to be like a, you know, a tree shape. But I do want something pushing the mountains a little bit further back. All right, I'm gonna add a little bit of black. I try not to use just solid black, but on this one, I think we're gonna have to, in order for that to really like show up the way I want it to. And let me get a smaller fan brush. And I'm not liking this brush. So I'm just putting like a you know, there could be a little bit of water back there, but there's like trees in front. So I'm just putting in like that ground mass. And then, let's see. I might have to switch to a different brush. So I haven't done trees with a fan brush in a while. All right, so that's looking okay. I will have to lighten these just a smidge. All right, let's get some darkness down underneath here. All right, so that's looking good. I'm gonna take the smallest fan brush and let me see. I'm gonna take that sunset color, the Indian yellow, the orange, and a little bit of white. I'm gonna thin that down just a little bit so we can see if we can get some to deposit. This is where it's harder in oil than it is acrylic, because now we're trying to put another wet paint on top of a wet paint. So you have to have it thinner than your previous layer in order for it to show up like that. need a little bit more white here. Just to brighten that up, just a smidge. Now this one wouldn't be, you know, as bright because this tree is blocking it, but you still want that tree to stand out. And let's get some on this little guy over here. I'm going to wipe that dark color off and then go back in with some more of the sunset colors. Okay, so that's looking okay. Let me see. I'm going to take the red and the orange and see what we can, because I don't want them to all be like the same color, but I do want to have a little bit of difference. In some of these. All right. Just trying to give a little bit of, you know, maybe the sun is poking through somewhere here. All right. All right, let me just check here and see if there's any comments. Hey, Terry. Hey, Mary Beth. Hey, guys. Welcome, welcome. So my initial thought was doing a red sky, but I've done so many of those. I wanted to kind of play with some different colors, but still have that sunset. All right, so what I've got to do now is, before I go too much further, just because I don't know what else I'm going to add, I want to get some reflections kind of going. So I have that blue, black, red, whatever we mixed, and we're gonna just kind of now you'll see the difference in the shadows doing the oil versus the acrylic. So again, I'm just getting just a little something in. Because I want to put that bright sun, but I've got to get my shadows for my trees in first. You know, and they don't have to be identical, just, you know, kind of showing a little something. And we'll just kind of, where we have a little something going on in between, we'll get something going there. And then we'll, and this one's going to be a little bit longer. All right. Now, we're gonna gently pull down. Okay. Now it looks messy, but now I'm gonna now you can see, I'm gonna, because I can't see it on my TV, so I can't, I just want to show you that. See how now that looks like it's sitting in the water? It actually looks like water. That's one of the main reasons I like doing oils, because it really stands out. Okay, so we need something going on over here. So I am going to, let's see, I'm going to take some red, some orange, some black, and some blue, and we're just going to make a really dark, yucky, messy color. And let me see, I'm going to do, we're going to do a landmass right in here. All right, just so there's some sort of ground there. And I'm gonna pick up some black, and let's see, we're gonna do, let's see, we're gonna put in a tree there. Let's see. So I'm kind of doing this tree a little different. It's more kind of, the branches are kind of poking down a little bit more. But I want that center to be dark and coming down on the ground here. And then we'll do a little guy right here. And I'm starting to get the hang of the fan brush again. It's been a while. And then, all right, well, I'm gonna leave that, and I'm gonna wash this. So when you're doing oils, you either have a lot of brushes or you're doing a lot of washing. And I'd rather wash in between. And the other good thing with oils is whatever you have on your palette, you can leave it and then come back and do another painting tomorrow or even in 2 days, and it will still be wet. All right, so I'm gonna do this like a blue, like the color of our mountains. I'm gonna do that on the back side of these trees, and I'm gonna use my little brush because I don't want to overdo. But I do want there to be, you know, a shadow side to these bigger trees. And that just kind of will help them stand out a little bit more. And then as it gets, you know, down to the bottom, I'll just go a little bit lighter. All right, I'm gonna wash this, and then we're gonna pick up the sunset colors. And we'll do the other side of the sunset colors. So I'm gonna take some white, yellow, alizarin crimson, and I'm just mixing a messy color here. And we'll and then I'll flip my brush over. This one would obviously have a little bit more because it's in front. And I need more yellow. It's a little too orangey. There we go. That's better. Now on the trees, you don't really mind if some of the areas turn green because, I mean, trees are green, right? Just gonna add a little bit more yellow into this tree here. All right, so that's looking good. All right, so before I go too far, I want to get my sun rays into this water area and in the backdrop. So I'm going to pick up that blue and white, even it maybe has a little yellow, has a green hue to it. And I'm just gonna give something, a little something back here. All right, and then I'm gonna wipe this off, and I'm gonna pick up the yellow and the white. And we're gonna come in right through here. So I want this to be coming down. All right, I'm gonna rub that in a little bit because I'm going to brush this out before I go over with a little bit more of the white. So I don't want this layer to be too thick. I'm going to take my clean 2-inch brush and lightly just kind of brush over that. So now that's starting to be our sun rays. I'm gonna wipe my palette knife, and I'm gonna pick up white, if I can get a clean spot on my thing here. And we're just gonna this. Wipe this off, pick up a little bit more. And my palette knife is almost flush to the canvas. Just gotta lift it up a little bit here. All right. So you could leave it like that if you want, but I'm going to go back in and I'm going to smooth that out just a little bit because I don't want my water to look like it's too rough. I just want there to be that sparkle on the water. All right. And then where I kind of like swooped up here, I'm just going to go back and forth. I'm going to brush all that in. And then I'm going to do a little bit more ripples around here. I'm going to get some burnt sienna, which is kind of like a red brown. So we can put a little bit of ground over here. I don't want it to be like completely brown, but I don't want it to be black either. All right, so I'm just gonna pick up this and find a clean spot to spread it out. And okay. And then I'm gonna pick up just a little bit of that like sunset color, and we're gonna just bring like a smidge out in the front here. And you know, there maybe be a little bit shining. Just maybe a little bit in there. All right, I'm gonna take some black and we're just gonna just want that pretty dark underneath there. Put another tree in here or something here. What I'm gonna do is all right, so we've got a like a dead limb tree or whatever there. All right, I just gotta wipe this brush. And I'm going to take that reddish brown color and we're going to add some bark. Wipe that off, pick up some more. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of white and I'm going to put it in that tree color just to give a little bit more lightness on this outside. And let me get a thin liner brush. And we're gonna put a few limbs. I'm gonna thin that paint down just a little. And I'm gonna use some black in with it. Hopefully you guys can see that. All right, so I'm gonna just try to pick up a little bit of yellow and you know, just kind of giving a little bit of where the sun might, you know, like in this corner piece, it might be casting a little bit of sun. Okay, I think that looks good. Okay, so now we've got to get a shadow going over here. So I'm just going to pick up some black and I'm going to go down like that. You know, there might one or two limbs might be showing, but nothing major. And then we're gonna do just a little bit of a shadow here for this tree. And then this one is gonna go all the way down. Just something like that. I'm going to take my big brush. I'm going to pull down. I'm going to wipe this off. And we're going to go back and forth. And you don't want to rub it so much that you take the shape of what it's supposed to be replicating down, because obviously that would kind of kill that illusion. All right, so I'm going to take my blue and white. I hope this is light enough, and then we're gonna all right, so we have a little bit of water movement kind of going there. Let's do just a little more up in through here. All right, so we'll take this and we'll just slowly kind of set that down just a little bit. And a little bit more white. All right, so let's so I'm not liking this blue spot right here. So I'm just gonna just make it kind of like a lighter tree in there. And then we'll just gonna put some more dark underneath here. All right, that looks a little better. All right, so let's get some and I don't have enough paint on my palette, on my thing. I don't even know if you guys can see that. Just kind of giving like a little something going on there. All right, so what do I want to do? It's hard when I'm like sitting so close, I can't figure out if I want to do anything else or I think I want a small mound of land here with maybe like some bushes and maybe some flowers on the bushes. I think that would look good. All right. So I'm just gonna, let's just kind of blacken this corner in right here. All right, so we have another little landmass down in this corner. And let me, all right, I'm gonna use my sap green because we're getting closer here. So I want these ones to be a little bit more in focus. But I'm going to mix it with black to start. So I'm going to take some green and I'll put it there, pick up some black, just so we have like a really dark green. All right, and let me pick up in my brush here. Let's see. So again, this first layer is going to be very dark. We really won't see much until I start adding some highlights to this. So I want this first layer to be fairly dark. And thick. All right. So we have our shape started. I'm going to just pick up a little bit of the paint thinner and I'm going to add the yellow to that. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing down there. Okay, now I'm gonna pick up more plain, just plain yellow if I can. And we'll just start. All right, clean this. All right. Now, let me, I want a, all right, maybe this one here will work. So I'm just gonna add like maybe a few flowers in these bushes here somewhere. and I'm just making like little blobs of color, basically. And I don't want to overdo, but I do want to add, you know, maybe a little bit of, maybe there's some little roses or something coming up. And you don't want them like everywhere. You don't want it to look like, you know, they're strategically placed, because they wouldn't be like that in nature. All right, looks like maybe berries, you know, it could be anything. And so let me go in with that darker green, and let's put some bushes over here. Put some over the tree. Okay, now I'm going to pick up the yellow. There we go. Okay. Let's do some brown and some black. And let's try putting a little bit of a rock in here and there. All right, so I'm going to do brown, a little bit of white, and the black. And I just didn't like how that was just like a streak on the top. I just didn't like that. All right, so I'm just gonna there we go. That looks a little bit better. All right, now I just gotta finish some water ripples, and I think we're gonna have a finished painting, guys. All right, so let me take my knife, scrape off the dirty white, and I'm gonna pick up all right, so there's some of the blue. Because it would be a different color over here because it's being shadowed by our mountains and the trees. Doesn't need to be a whole bunch, but I want there to be some sort of something showing that, you know, this is kind of watery. And let me pick up some more of that white. Okay. Where's my brush? Okay. I'm gonna take the small end. I'm just trying to get it on the corner here. Okay. I think I'm gonna call this one a done painting, guys. Let me hold it up for you so you can I mean, I could keep going for hours, but for the sake of the video, we're going to call it a done painting. Let me see if I got any comments here. Thank you, Fiona. Thank you, Mary Beth. All right, so this is our finished painting. So we have the mountains are one plane. These trees are a second plane. These trees are a third plane. This is a fourth plane, and that's a fifth plane. So that's how you get your depth. More things in front of each other give you that depth. So I think I did pretty good on this one. I've never done this type of painting, you know, where I've had just mountains on one side. So I'm pretty happy with it overall. So I do have to sign it. Let me see. Which color? Oh, this brush has some black in it. I don't want black. Oh my gosh, my hands are filthy. Oh, let me see. If I didn't have so many house repairs still to pay off, I would love to buy it. Well, you never know. It might not sell for a while, Mary Beth, so check back. You know, because sometimes I hang on to my paintings for a year before they sell. I think we're going to do... No, I was going to do the yellow and white, but I'm afraid because of the blue that I'm going to end up with a green. And so I'm going to go in with red. So let me just thin this down. I'll put a little bit of the yellow into the red, kind of make like an orange, and hopefully there'll be enough red where it doesn't turn green. All right. I have a hard time getting my initials small in oil paintings. That's my only... I've got to get some more liner brushes for my oil. But it's on the front, and then I sign my full name in the back. So if anybody has an idea of what we could name this painting, put it in the comments. That's the hardest thing. I have the hardest time coming up with like a name. You know, if this looks like a certain place, and you know, I don't know. So naming them, I have a hard time. Usually I'm getting ready to go to a show, and I'm like, okay, something Oasis, and I'll give it a name then. It's like in a haste. But yeah, that's kind of how I name my paintings most of the time. So I'll just clean. Anybody got any questions? I'm just going to clean these brushes off here so I don't forget. Because these brushes are expensive. These are the Bob Ross brushes, so I try to keep these brushes clean. And I need to get some more paint thinner too, because this is all I have left, so. And I just use the odorless mineral spirits. But I figured my hands finally were not split tonight. So I figured, well, if I'm going to do an oil painting, now's the time to do it because, like you can see, my hands are disgusting. So I do have a another pair of earrings that I ended up making. I came down late last night and I just kind of was playing around and I came up, it's another simple design, but I'll show you here in a minute. I don't want to, I'm going to have to grab a baby wipe my hands off some here. All right, I got one more brush. And I actually been thinking about a bracelet design. So when I went to Handmade today, I bought just a $1.19 like notebook so that I could you know, like once I sketch it out, then I can transfer it into this notebook and put the dimensions, you know, and everything, so I will have them together. All right, so my brushes are clear. Close my thing. Let me grab a baby wipe. Or 2 or 3. All right. If I can get the bulk of it off, then when I go upstairs and wash with soap and water and that's the worst part about the oil paints is how messy I get. Especially if I'm painting outside. Because sometimes I'll paint at the art walks and yeah, I'm a mess. Because I have to stand up, I have to hold the palette, then it gets all over the front of me. Yeah, I'm a mess. Okay, so I was playing around with this and I came up with this design right here, which I think will be like a pendant. So whether I could replicate it or not, I don't know. But that was that. And then I ended up coming up with, similar to the one I had done on the last video, but I added, they're just black and silver beads on the bottom, like a gunmetal. So, you know, I figured they'd just show up a little bit better. But these are the ones that I had made with the stainless steel, and I've had these in since last Wednesday or Thursday. I think it was last Wednesday, and they haven't bothered my ears at all, so that's always a plus. Alrighty guys, I will let you guys go. Thank you so much for hanging with me, and I know painting is not for everybody, but you know, I gotta change things up every now and then. I don't want to get bored. Alrighty, guys. I will see you next Monday night's live, but I will see you on my videos during the week. Bye, guys. Have a great night.